I'm Mary Fallon from Oklahoma, Congressional 5th District, and I am very proud today to be able to stand here with my colleagues to ask the President to appeal the ruling of this judge to stand up and fight for our freedoms, to have religious freedom. As was previously mentioned, our nation has not ever tried to establish one religion for our nation, but to give us the freedom of religion, to be able to express our opinions. It's interesting that we open prayer every time we have an opening session. So we do believe in prayer as a nation. And one of the things that has made this nation great is that our founding fathers sought the guidance and the wisdom of God in the creation of our nation, certainly in our Constitution. And America has been blessed and been a great nation because we have sought God. But if we take God out of America, America will cease to be a great nation.
Roscoe Bartlett from Maryland. You know, the Declaration of Independence is said to be the promise and the Constitution the fulfillment. Todd Tiahrt mentioned one of the 4 explicit references in the Declaration of Independence to God. I'd like to note the other 3 because I think it's important. First paragraph, it says the laws of nature and of nature's God. And then near the end of the Declaration, it says it's appealing to the supreme judge of the world. I think that means prayer, doesn't it? That's how you appeal to God, through prayer. And at the very end of it, it says protection of divine providence. 4 specific references to God. I wonder if this judge would declare the Declaration of Independence unconstitutional.
You know, it's always an honor for someone, some of the younger members of Congress to know that we stand on the shoulders of so many of those that have gone before and fought these battles in the past. But I have a picture behind my desk. It's called the Prayer at Valley Forge, and it's a picture of George Washington standing in front of a large blue roan stallion on his knees praying. And the story goes that Isaac Potts came up, a Quaker, and heard George Washington praying. And he went home and told his wife, he said, you know, until today, I thought that being a soldier and a Christian were incompatible. But if George Washington be not a man of God, then I'm mistaken. And still more mistaken shall I be if he does not use this man to do something great for this country. We have the most profound heritage as a people. As has been said earlier, our Constitution and our Declaration are replete with the clear example that we are to allow the people of this country to pray. And it's always astonishing to me that when you look at the Declaration, it says, you know, the whole essence of America is that we believe that there's this divine image, this imago Dei, stamped on every human heart. And that that's what makes people worth protecting their life and their freedom and their pursuit of their dreams. And if we miss that, then I'm afraid we miss it all. And I know there have been judges for a long time that have tried to dismiss God from public life. And my greatest fear is that someday he might go. And if he does, I'm not convinced that they will be satisfied with the result.
I'm Spencer Backus from the 6th District of Alabama. As a Republican, we sometimes have Lincoln Day celebrations, and of course our Democratic colleagues have Jefferson Jackson Day dinners. One thing that Thomas Jefferson, a Democrat, and Abraham Lincoln, a Republican president, agreed on is that if judges began to make the law, the American people would have lost their freedom. One said it would stand the Constitution on its head. That was Thomas Jefferson. Abraham Lincoln said the people will have ceased to govern themselves. That, I think, has happened this past week when a judge didn't interpret a law. He made a law. And it's a law that flies in the face of everything this country stands for and the historical record of our country, including many inscriptions in the very buildings we meet in today. Thank you.
Everyone you've heard from agrees that this federal court decision was misguided. It shows the importance of having someone in the White House who appoints good judges. This judge was appointed by Jimmy Carter. Need I say anything more? We have to make sure that President Obama does not send to the Supreme Court someone's name this summer who's of the same liberal bent as this federal judge is. And that's a battle we're going to have to fight as conservatives and as freedom-loving Americans. Thank you.
I'm Louis Gohmert from East Texas, and What we see in Judge Crabb is absolute proof as to why there must be a National Day of Prayer. When a judge gets through an education such as she's had and remains as ignorant as she is of our history, where we came from, and what it means to take her oath as a judge, as a Chief Justice. I took the oaths. I took it when I was in the Army. I took it when I became in Congress. And what it means to uphold the Constitution is if you're a district judge, you don't rewrite things. You follow precedent. You follow the law as it is, or as the Supreme Court tells you it is. But now we got this activist judge, and when you operate from the vast ignorance that she does, then it becomes dangerous. And I'm sure she's got the best degrees on her wall and all, but she is ignorant of our history. And if you go back to the beginning, and I know Mike McIntyre mentioned Benjamin Franklin's speech there in the Constitutional Convention. Nearly 5 weeks, they hadn't accomplished anything. And that's when 80-year-old Benjamin Franklin, smart as ever, stood up and went through what he did. We've been here 5 weeks, accomplished virtually nothing. We got more no's than ayes. And then he said these words, "How is it, sir, we have not once thought of applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understanding? In the beginning contest with Great Britain, we had daily prayer in this room." Now, most of the people, like Judge Crabb, has probably been taught that he was a deist, meaning that there's some force that created the universe and then just stepped back. His next words were this: "Our prayers, sir, were heard, and they were graciously answered." And that has followed throughout our history. In the rotunda, there's the painting of George Washington tendering his resignation. Most people don't know that at the end of that resignation, he had these words, and people were so moved they had them printed and distributed across the country. And keep in mind, that was an act that nobody had ever done before and nobody has ever done since. Win a revolution as head of the military and then walk away. Never happened before or since. But Washington said, "I now make it my earnest prayer," hopefully that doesn't offend Judge Crabb, "that God would have you in the state over which you preside in his holy protection." And he goes on and on to attain a brotherly affection and love for one another. But he finishes by saying, and finally, that he would most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author, for Judge Crabb, that's Jesus, the divine author of our blessed religion, and without an humble imitation of whose example in these things we can never hope to be a happy nation. That's how we got started. It is throughout our history. I've got a bill I filed all 3 of the terms I've been in that would require a plaque for people like Judge Crabb to read in Statuary Hall so she would know and people would know about the decades of church. Now, I had CRS confirm the facts, and when I first saw what they sent back, I thought, uh-oh. They said there's a difference between Jefferson and Madison. They said, yeah, there's a difference between Jefferson attending church in the Capitol and Madison, because Jefferson normally preferred to ride a horse, and Madison went in a carriage drawn by 4 horses. Jefferson even brought the Marine Band to play the hymns in the church. So he had a little different idea of the term separation of church and state, which he himself coined. We have a history that is incredible. And bless her heart, I'd be interested to know whether Judge Crabb begins each session with a prayer, as most federal judges do, that says, "God save this honorable court." That's a prayer. And for her sake, I hope he does.
I'm Gary Miller from California's 42nd Congressional District. Just last month, for the first time in 130 years, we had a worship service in the Capitol Rotunda. And it was an honor to be there. We prayed. We quoted prayers from those who came before us. To think that a judge would rule that you cannot have a day of prayer when members of Congress met in the Capitol to have a worship service and to pray to God. And there were people standing outside who wanted to come in to be part of our service, and I wish they really could have if we could have had the room for them. But if you look at what was said about our founding fathers, even when we had the Great Civil War in this country, you had generals of both sides praying to God to do the right thing. Patton maybe didn't use the best words when he fought in World War II, but even Patton had prayers written for him to recite before he put men and women into battle, to risk their lives for this great country. And to have a judge make a decision like this is just unreasonable, and I believe unconstitutional. Each one